Well, let me say this real quick. We're talking about Lawrence Anderson, who was redocketed in error by the Pardon and Parole Board. This matter was investigated by the Oklahoma County Grand Jury. They alleged that there was improper influence. I don't know about that matter. What is your understanding of why Lawrence Anderson got redocketed and then got commuted?
You know, there's thousands and thousands of people that are currently in prison, and they're going to be getting out this year that have got certain sentences. And the Pardon and Parole Board goes through those the best they can. There's 5 people on that board, and they recommend for some people to get released. And sometimes bad things happen. And with thousands of people every year, the other thing is just throwing away the key and locking every single person up for good. That's not the solution either, Superintendent. And so things are going to happen. And for you to take that type of shot and bring those wounds back up and try to make those families out there think that that was somehow I was responsible, or the 5 people on the Pardon and Parole Board, they absolutely would change their vote and make a different decision if we knew that that person was going to kill someone. Everybody out there knows that. We all know that you're just trying to make political points. That's disgusting.
30 seconds, Superintendent.
Yes. So,
real quick, let's keep the pause down. Thank you.
So let's talk about the facts. The fact is, the rates of violent crime are higher in Oklahoma under your watch than in New York and California. That's a fact.
Well, we'll have that fact checked by the Frontier Superintendent.
It's also a fact that medical
marijuana... Hang on,
marijuana...
Oklahomans, do you believe we have higher crime than New York or California? That's what she just said.
Safety and security is my top priority, and it will be as governor.
Okay, a lot to unpack here, but first, the truth. The Democrat on stage, Joy Hoffmeister, running for governor of Oklahoma, is absolutely right. According to the most recent data from the CDC, Oklahoma has a homicide rate of 9 deaths per 100,000, compared with California's rate of 6.1 and New York's rate of 4.7. Oklahoma also has a murder rate of 7.25 per 100,000 people, compared with California's murder rate of 5.59 and New York's rate of 4.11. And this issue isn't isolated to Oklahoma. According to a comprehensive study from Third Way, it turns out that per capita murder rates are on average 40% higher in the states that Trump won compared to those that Biden won. And yes, 8 of the top 10 worst murder rate per capita states voted for Trump in 2020. But we've all heard the talking point. It's actually the cities, and those are all Democrat run. Republican-led Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a murder rate of almost 20, and Oklahoma City, with a murder rate of over 11 per 100,000, both have per capita murder rates triple and double, respectively, that of New York City, which has a 5.9 murder rate. Bakersfield and Fresno and Jacksonville are all led by Republicans and all have higher per capita murder rates than New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And just to build on that, it doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction in red states either. The state with the highest per capita increase in per capita murder rate, Wyoming, with a 91.7% increase. The second highest state, South Dakota, with a 69% increase. In fact, 6 of the top 10 increases in per capita murder rates are red states, and besides Wyoming and South Dakota, include Nebraska, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Kansas. Not exactly liberal bastions, are they? You know which states aren't even in the top 10? New York or California or Illinois, all of the right's favorite punching bags. It's almost like they need a refresher on their talking points. But what's especially telling here is that even after Kevin Stitt scoffs at the very notion that Oklahoma has a higher murder rate, which it does, is him then turning to the audience and mocking Hoffmeister for telling the truth. Notice how he doesn't say, that's not true. He just says, do you believe we have a higher crime rate than New York or California? She's deferring to facts. He's deferring to feelings. People wouldn't think that Oklahoma has a higher murder rate than New York because we are all subjected to these right-wing talking points on an endless loop about how you can't walk out of your house in one of these Democrat-run cities without being robbed or shot. But that's the point. They know that if they can build the perception that there's more crime in blue areas, then they don't actually have to do anything to protect people in their own states and districts. And when they are called out for their shortcomings, all they have to do is have a nice belly laugh on stage and ask the audience, do you really believe that? Because so long as they can rely on your preconceived notions that they themselves helped formulate, then they can absolve themselves of responsibility for their own failed policies. Now granted, it is possible that Kevin Stitt doesn't know the difference between the murder rate and the raw number of total murders, but you can't compare using raw numbers. For example, if you have 10 murders in a small state, but only 100 people living there, those 10 will feel way more severe than 1,000 murders in a big blue state with a population of 1 million. And frankly, at the end of the day, if Kevin Stitt, who is a full-grown adult, doesn't know the difference between a murder rate and total murders, he's either too dumb or too disingenuous to serve. But what I find especially interesting is that while Republicans will fall over themselves pointing to crime, even despite the fact that they themselves oversee more dangerous states than Democrats, when they do have the opportunity to actually do something about it beyond just whining to Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham, they block every solution. How many mass shootings have we had in this country that have been followed by Republicans offering nothing but thoughts and prayers? Followed by Republicans saying that now isn't the time to talk policy, it's a time to grieve. Followed by Republicans claiming that any effort to stop these shootings would just politicize the issue. And so what's happened? More shootings, more injuries, and more deaths. So forget about the fact that red states are more dangerous. Even when given the opportunity to solve these issues, still they refuse. If their misguided talking points weren't bad enough, their unwillingness to actually fix anything really is the nail in the coffin here. And if you were wondering whether the voters of Oklahoma are recognizing the scam that Kevin Stitt is pulling, it seems like they are. According to the latest statewide poll, Hoffmeister is actually leading Kevin Stitt 49-42 with 8% of the respondents still undecided. I should note that Hoffmeister is a former Republican who switched parties to challenge Stitt this year, and so while she garnered 89% of the Democratic vote and 69% of the independent vote in this poll, she's also pulling in 20% of the Republican vote. And look, that's not to say that polls are sacrosanct or that things can't change in a matter of days in election season. It is evidence that she's outperforming expectations in a state that hasn't elected a Democrat as governor since 2006. So if you ever needed proof that every state is at play, you've got that proof right here in Oklahoma. You've got proof in Kansas, which voted 60-40 to protect a woman's right to choose. You've got proof in Texas and Florida and North Carolina and Ohio, Arizona and Georgia, and every other state the Democrats have written off in the past. Because what people are realizing now is that the GOP's refusal to accept responsibility for their own actions, coupled with their dangerous far-right religious extremism, is not what the vast majority of Americans want. They don't want a party dominated by old male theocrats telling them what they can or can't do with their own bodies. They don't want them determining who can or can't get married. They don't want them dictating whether or not you can use birth control. They don't want them telling you what books you can or can't read. They don't want them stripping you of the Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid benefits that you've earned throughout your entire lifetime. For years, Republicans have hid behind this idea of freedom, when in reality, they are broadcasting their intention to take any freedom that doesn't comport with their religious agenda away. So with that said, good on Hoffmeister for calling Kevin Stitt out for the realities of his own failed policies. And shame on that Republican governor for refusing to take responsibility for his own actions. If he will lie about his own state's crime statistics, figures that are right there in black and white, then think about what else he'll lie about. Now is the chance for the voters of Oklahoma to elect a governor who has more respect for her own constituents than to lie right to their faces. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can click the thumbnail right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work even further, the best way is to subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. There you can check out my interviews with major players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, Jamie Raskin, and so many more. Plus other interviews that live exclusively on the podcast. That link is also right here on this screen, or just search No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen wherever you listen to podcasts.